Let's first imagine the scene of the legendary 60s and early 70s. Young Americans in their teens and 20s exploring Eastern cultures, religions, psychedelics, and more. Some were rebelling against social rigidity of the 50s. Some were sincerely seeking spiritual enlightenment. A few, inspired by Srila Prabhupada's teachings, attempted to establish an idealized Indian culture in modern times to provide the best possible lifestyle for their children.
All right. Thus begins our story, ISKCON's Gurukula experiment. It all began in 1972 with the first Gurukula opening in Dallas, Texas. Gurukula comes from the Sanskrit words guru and kula. Guru meaning spiritual master and kula meaning school.
The goal of Srila Prabhupada's Gurukul was to educate children based on spiritual values. He believed if his Gurukul children were, quote, given practical guidance on the transcendental platform above the bodily and mental conception of life, that we would develop into, quote, perfect citizens, moral, honest, hardworking, law-abiding, clean, and faithful to home and country.
Wait. Did he say practical guidance? Because I want to know, where was that Gurukula? Yeah, you could sign me up for that. The Dallas Gurukula was opened, and 100 students between the ages of 4 and 8 were entrusted to the strict ashram lifestyle. But instead of being in the utopian paradise their parents intended, many found themselves sleeping on the floor, rising at 2 in the morning to cold showers, and for some, being subject to severe abuse. The very first ashram was closed just 4 years later due to pressure from state authorities amid allegations of child endangerment.
As a response to the situation in Dallas, Srila Prabhupada personally oversaw the building of new Gurukulas in Vrindavan and Mayapur. Sadly, by the next year, in 1977, Srila Prabhupada passed away. In his absence, the situation for the children of ISKCON continued to worsen.
Despite this, the Hare Krishna movement continued to grow rapidly, and by 1981, there were 24 Gurukulas in 18 countries. This figure continued to rise until the mid-80s, when the ISKCON leadership began to collapse amid reports of murder, abuse, and other illegal activities.
Between 1986 and 1988, most of the larger Gurukulas closed. Our lives forever changed. Many families moved away from our communities, removing us from the only life that we knew. All we had been taught seemed irrelevant. We were enrolled in public schools, so opposite from where we came from, and were often the only people that even knew who Krishna was.
We were separated from friends and introduced for the first time to the karmi, or mainstream lifestyle. It was difficult, to say the least, integrating the Krishna and karmi worlds. Often living with their family for the first time, some felt isolated in the walls others called home. Without the familiarity of the sisterhood and brotherhood we had grown to depend on, we inevitably felt the need to be around others like us.
In 1988, Janavi, Rukmini, Shri Radha, Leela, and Raghunath, and a few others arranged a gathering. For the first time since the Gurukulas had fallen apart, about 50 friends came together at the Los Angeles Temple. That event sparked the spirit of our annual reunions.
And tonight, here we are, celebrating our 20th reunion anniversary. The first international Gurukula reunion was held right here in LA in 1989. Attendance was over 100, doubling the previous year's local gathering. The pictures, I forgot
Yeah, totally. The early 90s was a thriving time for reaching out to our youth across the world. Reunions took place in New Vrindavan, Atlanta, Australia, Alachua, and more. In 1994, Manu organized the first Hare Krishna bus tour, engaging our youth in Sankirtan at temples, on city streets, and at Rath Yatra festivals. Through generous assistance, the tours have traveled worldwide, singing Krishna's glories in kirtan and reenacting his pastimes through plays.
In 1996, a full decade had passed for those kids who had left Gurukula in the 80s. The effects of our youth weighed heavier, and anger, sadness, and hope for healing was surfacing. Some people were graphically detailing their most traumatic experiences. In an effort to understand the past, and with hope to prevent abusive mistakes from happening again, Nirmal Chandra and Maya Charnel started the website Voice, Violation of ISKCON's Children Exposed.
We were uniting and wanting our voices heard. ISKCON was still an isolated group, and there was little room to question or criticize leadership. We were told we were in Maya, or simply ignored. But Chaitanya Mangala and Bahulasva bravely made the first presentations to the ISKCON Board of Education. There, Project Future Hope, a program to match members of the first and second generations for training and employment, was born. As It Is magazine, the largest collaborative effort to date, was started as a networking and support newsletter for Gurukulis.
In 1997, 20 Gurukulis, including our dear friend Janavi, spoke at the GBC meeting in Alachua. As a result, Children of Krishna was formed. During the next decade, it gave more than $240,000 in grants supporting internships, counseling, tuition, and youth publications. Janavi's passion and dedication will forever be missed. Thanks to all of you whose generosity and selfless service improved the quality of many of our lives.
Great strides were made in the late 90s. In 1998, the first official ISKCON Office of Child Protection opened. In 1999, Krishna Devata and Shakuntala were among the first women to present a statement to the GBC in Mayapur. It was high time that ISKCON leaders were challenged in their divisive policies regarding free speech. The solution was what Srila Prabhupada had laid down years before, Istagosti, or open communication meetings, which these women were now asking to be reinstated. Also that year, Adam, Bhakta Vishvareda, infamously retaliated against his former abuser in India.
This past decade has been a time of healing and growth for most of us. While the 90s was about expressing the truth of what really happened in Gurukula, bringing attention to the mistakes we hoped would never be repeated, the years since the millennium have been a time of flourishing young faces, happily chanting the holy names. This younger generation can be seen blissfully in the Bhajan Kutir. Their experiences in Gurukula are thankfully in stark contrast to ours.
Our colorful childhoods gave us an opportunity to extract, embody, and embrace the rich Vedic culture. We were given knowledge at 5 years of age that some people do not come across in a lifetime. What we Gurukulis share amongst ourselves is far more valuable than where we differ in opinions or lifestyles. We are, in the truest sense, brothers and sisters.
From our past, I hope we have learned to love and protect our children, for they are our future. Back in the day, forcing 3-year-olds to traverse Appalachian terrain at 2:30 in the morning was not practical teaching of devotional service. Let's infuse common sense, kindness, and open minds with our treasure of Srila Prabhupada's teachings. Loved, protected, and nourished children are the beacons of our bright future. Immerse those same children in Krishna's pastimes, and they will have a very different childhood than the ones we were given.
Today, we have emerged collectively from our inseparable bond. We are mothers and fathers, teachers and students, Some are doctors, lawyers, artists, business owners, and everything in between. We share a history so unique that we will always have each other to laugh, cry, and know that the other has actually walked in our shoes.
Yeah.
These friendships alone are worth more than we could ever ask for.
Our Kuli future is looking good tonight. You guys are looking great. In fact, you are empowered with not having to start from scratch. We challenge you to take up our mission and continue to build a strong and vibrant community where all voices are equally heard. Please, we ask you to honor our past with us and use these lessons we've learned. To our families and friends, leaders of our community, it now all depends on you. We live in an amazing time. We have learned from the past, revel in the present, and as to the future, we can't wait to see what spectacular things each of you accomplishes. Thank you very much.